Hello there, a really quick video just to introduce you to this app called Arduino SJ, the Arduino Science Journal. And this should be a perfectly adequate app for replacing a physical data logger so that you can use iPads in your classroom with this app to replicate the functions of a data logger. There's a couple of other apps on the screen there. Decibel X will give you some sound monitoring functions, and Lux Light Meter Pro. These might be useful apps for children to have a go with. You might find a use for them specifically within your lessons, but the Arduino Science Journal, let's just tap on it there, should do everything that you need for data logging with your class. You'll see when you go into it that there's a Welcome to Science Journal experiment in there, which gives you some guidance on it. But let's just create a new experiment, so a new sort of data logging event. If I press plus, you'll see I don't get much to start with, but I've got this edit button in the bottom right, and if I go there, I can then give my experiment a name. Let's just call it that. And then you'll see at the bottom, you've got various options, and the one I'll show you is sensors. And so this is where I can choose different aspects to monitor through data logging. You'll see at the moment it's on the accelerometer, which is the built-in kind of tilt function across all three dimensions that phones and iPads have got built into them, so you can see that working. But if I change this to the sun there, that puts it onto brightness. Okay, so it's measuring brightness through the camera, and as I move that around, you'll see it's going to lighter and darker areas, and that could be used in an experiment around the school or in the classroom. I'm thinking about how bright certain areas are, or indeed how certain areas might change brightness over time. It's possible also, in fact probable, that you would use this one, the sound intensity. You can see there it's in decibels, and you can see it's plotting my voice there in decibels against this graph. It's also worth noting that there's an I for information button there over on the right, and if I tap on that, you'll get a nice summary of any of these aspects, which is always worth reading through to sort of refresh your memory as to how these different aspects work and how these different units work. Decibels is an interesting one as to how it measures things. You'll also see record button. Now if I press that, now you'll see it started to record. You can see on the graph there that it's recording across the screen. And that can, that could go on for half an hour or an hour or longer potentially. You want to make sure your iPad doesn't fall asleep. If you're putting it on for longer and longer, you may need to change a setting so that it stays on. But there we go, it's recording. And when I press stop, you might think, oh, I wonder where it's gone. But if I go back now, you see in the top left arrow, you'll see that there's a recording there, this nice graph that I can tap to look at in further detail, and it will play along. It will also play along with a simulation of sound intensity, which you might rather it didn't, because you can imagine children will be quite attracted to that aspect of it. But there we go, you can't have everything. So if I go back, let's go into sensors again and just look at some of the other options. You've got pitch here just to the left in hertz, so that is measuring the pitch of my voice. Might be moments of high and moments of lower pitch. Would be interesting to have that recording next to an opera singer or something like that. Would make an interesting graph. And there are some other interesting options in here as well, like the magnetometer, which might make an interesting discussion point as to how that works. Again, press the I and you're going to find out how it works by reading through there.